Hi, welcome to Cultural Connection. I'm Nancy Commodores, the Cultural Arts Supervisor for the City of Farmington Hills Cultural Arts Division. And we are going to talk today about one of our outstanding community groups, the Farmington Art Foundation. I have with us today Jan Hall, who is the current president of the Farmington Art Foundation, and Jim Patterson, who's a long-standing member. Has been involved for many years, right? It's a very interesting group, and I think it really contributes a lot to the arts in our community. Jan, let's start off first talking about membership. Who can be a member?
Anybody can be a member.
Don't have to be a resident?
Don't have to be a resident of Farmington Hills.
Okay.
The only qualifications, you have to have an interest in the arts.
Okay. You don't have to be an artist.
You don't have to be an artist.
Great.
We have some associate members who are spouses of artists. But really, there's no requirement that you be an artist. You just have to be interested in the arts. We have monthly meetings and we have speakers. So you get an interest in the arts and then you get some educational value out of it.
So how do you become a member? I mean, how would you join up if you wanted to?
You would come to one of our monthly meetings and we have application forms there. The membership fee is $40 a year.
Very reasonable.
Yes.
Especially for all those lectures and all those meetings and so on.
Yep. And we meet starting September through November and then January through May.
About how many members do you have, Jan?
Right around 100 right now.
Wow, that's a large group.
Yes.
Yep.
And it ebbs and flows. Well, right now I think we're in transition. A lot of new, younger members coming in.
What I think is great is that you draw members from even outside of our community. So
That's
they get to know our community as
Yes.
well. And you all get to interact as artists for all the different styles and learn from each other.
That's correct. We have members from all areas around here.
So your meetings are once a month, and where are they?
They're in the Farmington Library up on 12 Mile, up in the auditorium. They start at 6:45. We have a short business meeting followed by a speaker, and they wrap up by 8:45.
So coming to the meetings is one of the benefits of being a member.
That's correct.
What sort of speakers do you have?
They're usually artists, or they're a curator at an art exhibit, but mainly they're artists. And they're talking about their art and their process, how they create the art. Our last speaker was a woman who does charcoal, and she had a live model and how she goes about creating her artwork.
Wow, that's really great.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. Now, do you have people in all sorts of media involved in the foundation? We
have watercolor, oil, charcoal. Basically, that's it. We don't have any sculptures or anything like that.
Okay. If you were a sculptor and you wanted to join, would that be okay?
Yeah, but we wouldn't. The problem with that was you wouldn't be able to get into our annual spring show in April as part of the Festival of the Arts.
So it's all two-dimensional art.
Yeah, two-dimensional art. That's correct.
Spring exhibit is your main exhibit during the year.
That's correct.
Right.
And that's a juried exhibit. We usually have about 100 juried entries. Actually, we end up with 100 jury entries. We end up with about 150 people, paintings being entered.
Yes, it's huge. I know. It's at the Cossack Center. Yes.
Yes, it's in the big room. It takes up a good part of that room.
It's quite a draw.
Yes.
And I know that that's a big process for you to go through.
The committee starts. The first committee meeting is coming up shortly. We start meeting in the fall and meet through the spring. And there's publicity committees. There's people who take care of, getting the jurors. People take care of setting up the show. So it does take a lot of our members' time.
Now that's the framed artwork. You also have a large section of unframed artwork, which is very reasonable if people want to come out and shop. I mean, a lot of it's for sale.
It's
both framed and unframed.
Unframed and is bigger actually than the frame section. So you have a lot of people come through. We send out postcards to people who have been coming to the shows for years, all through the metro area, and they look forward to it. They get their postcard and they know it's time to come to the show. Yeah,
I know that I love it. I like to get through it. I've bought many gifts there at your show, and things for my own home too.
Yeah.
Because there's such a wide variety of styles.
Different styles, different, media, there's collages, there's all kinds of different things.
Now your members they're not all professional artists? They're amateurs and professionals,
That's
correct?
I'm a trained engineer, but now that I'm retired, I'm working on watercolor. And so I've gotten into the shows, and I keep working at it.
So some of the other benefits of being a member are just, for one thing, just interacting with the other artists, getting a chance to display your work, and what else? And coming to the meetings and the lectures?
Coming to the meetings and lectures. We have a monthly newsletter that lists all kinds of activities, other shows that are available for our members to enter, classes that they can take. And then right now our newsletter editor is very active, so most days you'll get a note from her about some other show or class that you can, either enter the show or take a class in different media.
I really like that because I get those emails, like you say, almost daily.
Yes.
She's right on top of everything that's happening in southeastern Michigan.
Right. She's very, very active in that.
So that knowledge base is just really, really valuable for artists because you find out all sorts of things, lectures, exhibits, art fairs, all of that through the Farmington Art Foundation.
Yes, correct.
Now, it wasn't always the Farmington Art Foundation. You merged recently with the Farmington Artists Club?
About 2 years ago. The original club was the Farmington Artists Club. And then in 67, 68, if memory serves me right, the Art Foundation was created as a nonprofit to support the seniors and what's called Art Smart in the elementary schools, where we take portfolios in so that the teachers have ability to teach the younger kids about various artists and things. And a couple years ago, because of changes in tax laws, it was clear that we could combine both of them and maintain our nonprofit status.
That's great. Well, talk about the Art Smart program. That's a program that's been going on for years and years. I was involved in something very similar back in Waterford, and I know how great it is.
Yeah.
And what does that do for kids, and who does it, and how does it happen?
Well, we have what we call portfolios that we take to each classroom, and they take them in the fall, and they're there for the teachers to use as needed. They have descriptions of various artists, what he did, why he did, what his methods were, and about the artist and his life, so that these younger kids get an exposure to art. It's not art training, but it's an exposure to the arts.
Sure, so that they'll recognize those famous artists you're talking about.
Yes.
I think that's great. And in lieu of being able to go to an actual museum and see some of these, they get to see these wonderful prints of famous artists and get exposed to the different styles and so on. And this happens every single year, right?
Yes.
And are all the volunteers who do it members of your club?
Yes.
Wow, that's a great thing.
Yeah.
That is just a great thing.
So we, in the fall, get them out to the schools, and then in the spring they come back and they get stored at the Caustic Center during the summer.
Yeah, I think that's a nice thing that the city does, is that they do store it for you so that you can have the...
Oh, yes, because otherwise we'd be hunting for storage space all the time.
Yeah,
so we do appreciate that.
There's a lot of portfolios for that. Do the teachers choose their own portfolios? Or?
No, we set them up.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah.
So they get something different all the time.
Yes, that's correct.
Wow, that's great. That's a great program.
Yeah. And the other thing we do as part of our nonprofit, of course, is the senior painting classes that are every Wednesday from 1 to 3. And we supply the materials for that. And, and a lot of the seniors wouldn't be able to paint without us being there.
Sure.
I mean, some of them would, but a lot of them wouldn't. And so it's an outlet for them, and they're coming up with some really good artwork.
They are.
And we're working on trying to get space in the Caustic Center and the hardware so that we can have a rotating show of senior artwork.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
I've really enjoyed the few times that I participated with the seniors. I walked away feeling a lot better that it's helped other people in their painting.
Yeah.
So that's at the Caustic Center every week, and anyone can come?
Any senior? Yeah.
55 and older, I think it is.
Yeah.
Or 50 and older.
And it's, that I think is a Farmington Hills resident. I don't know if it's Farmington or Farmington Hills. I know it's Farmington Hills. I'm not sure about Farmington.
I'm sure if it's at the Caustic Center, it's both cities.
Yeah,
both cities, yeah. But
that's a great thing.
they have a good group, and we have some really good volunteers who maintain that week in, week out. They're always looking for more volunteers from within the organization to help.
Well, it's important to have your artwork on display, so I'm really glad it'll be in the hallway of the Caustic Center. We're working on getting that up too.
Yeah.
So I've been through there, and I see that they're just enjoying themselves so much.
Oh, yes.
And they learn so much from you guys who have painted for years and years too. So
yes, it's
a great thing.
Very enjoyable.
They also display their work at the Festival of the Arts.
That's right. They have their own section, and they have their own awards. And I understand this year we're going to honor them as part of the regular awards program.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So that's really upgrading their status, so to speak.
We should mention the awards program is part of the festival, and it's also combined with the awards that the Arts Commission gives out, and for the student awards.
Yes.
So, it's a great thing, and anyone can come to that. It's a wonderful reception, and that's usually towards the end of April.
Yeah.
So we'll have
It's
information.
part of that whole weekend kind of thing. Usually that's Thursday night, and and the show opens that day, and then it's open usually Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Well, we've been talking about the seniors hanging their work at the Caustic Center. We also have Hallway C, which started in what year, Jim?
Yes, 2003 we
Okay.
started it, and it consists of 4 shows. We start out with landscapes and
Oh, yeah.
cityscapes,
Right,
and then we follow with flowers and still lifes, and then people, and we end up a year with abstract art.
So every few months it changes.
Every few months it does change, yes.
You know, I remember right before that happened, you guys were looking for a place to hang your artwork, looking for a permanent gallery. So that
Oh,
hallway
yes,
became
yes.
available.
Yes,
Yeah.
we were,
And
and
it's nice.
it turned out well. In fact, when the Farmington Hills Library was going on revision, we came over to the Caustic Center to meet on our monthly meetings.
Oh, okay.
And while we were there, you and I, we started the gallery then, and all our members enjoyed walking through the gallery after the meeting and
Yeah.
seeing their and other paintings
Oh, yes.
that were on display. I might mention that this exhibit, these shows, are open to all our members. And what we do is I pass out a clip sheet at all our meetings for artists to sign up for these shows. And I need 10 artists for each show. And I get about 25, 30, or 40
that's
people that
wonderful.
want to get into one show. And of course, I have 4 shows. So enabling to do this, I pull the names out of a hat, so to speak, and I send out a form to each of the members saying that you have been selected, and for portraits, figures, and you're to come at a certain date, and they bring their artwork in, and the people that were there 3 months before take their paintings out at the same time. So we do it all in one day, so
Yeah.
that is convenient, and we haven't turned any artist down. We ask them to bring in 3 paintings. In my little committee, we choose 2 out of the 3. And of course, if somebody doesn't show up, we take all 3. But it's been very well. We haven't turned anybody down, and they all enjoy hanging at the show. And we have sold several paintings throughout the years. And thanks to Nancy, we have had some good communication, and you've gotten our name in some of the local publications.
Well, it's well deserved. I think it's great that you open it to everyone.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're amateur or, you know, that's what I like about your club. Is it's so open, you know, welcoming
Oh,
to
yes,
all different
yes.
levels. And boy, that just makes such a difference in that back hallway. People just love seeing the different artwork all
Yeah.
the time.
People come through and they comment all the time, and some of the same people I see every 3
Sure,
months
sure.
come right up to me and say thanks again. We appreciate the artwork, and so it makes us feel good. And at the same, we don't give awards out, but at the same time, we're allowing our members to exhibit in some areas where they probably couldn't in our spring show because they wouldn't be juried in the show.
Yeah.
Well,
And new artists just starting out, they have a fear of going into
Yeah.
shows to be juried. So this gives them an opportunity to, well, whatever they have, look, you know, something new, just put it in a frame, put a wire on it so we can hang it in the show. And again, the hanging apparatuses at our show are very good. As you well know, the hanging rods, and we can move them, and we have accommodation for about 21 or 22 paintings during the show.
Well, that was just a win-win situation for all of us because you did such a great job of enhancing the Caustic Center and making it more attractive. We get those large rentals, large groups in there. They love to come out during their breaks and
Yeah.
peruse the artwork. And, you know, not a lot of public buildings have that kind of
Sure.
display. That and then the city gallery, they
Sure.
also complement each
These are
other.
very good.
And then
Yep.
we have a rotating show at the downtown Farmington Library also.
That's right.
That changes every month, and people just sign up for that. One of our members handles all the paperwork for that, and you know, there's a sign-up sheet. You pick a month, and then you've got to hang your own work, and it's there up for a month.
Well, being on the administrative side, I have to say it's great to work with a group like this that just handles it, does it so well, does it so professionally, and you know, we don't have to worry about it. We know it'll always be tasteful and attractive.
Well, I might mention, years ago, now that we are at the Caustic Center, years ago we used to be at the Spicer House.
Right.
And we had our shows at the Spicer House. And of course, all our frames and apparatus to hang our paintings were stored at the Warner Mansion stable or carriage house. And we used to transport all these frames to the Spicer House to get set up, so enabling our show to move to the Caustic Center. We were able to store everything right there.
Yes.
And we have no problem now setting up a show.
Yeah, and I've had other groups come up to me and say, how did you manage to get those wonderful panels? We want to get them, but we can't afford them. And I said, I don't know. I wasn't a member then, but they're wonderful. I only know that. And I'm very appreciative because having been part of setting up a show, it just makes it so much easier to have those big panels. Yes.
And you guys have a whole routine that you go through setting those up for the spring show. And it's amazing when you're hanging 100 paintings. It's a huge operation.
That's
and
right.
you do it in a number of hours. And again, you know, you're just so self-sufficient.
Well, they say clubs are made up of volunteers. And I always thought that volunteers were sort of a clique. There were about 4 or 5 people that did all the work. I came to the first meeting of this club, and the first individual I met, he asked me, I need help to set up the panels at our show. Could you volunteer? I said, sure, I'll help you. So I've been working ever since on some aspect of our shows.
Yeah, and I know you do also an exhibit during Art on the Grand. We've been doing that for years and years too.
Yes.
One of the first things we did when we started the very first art fair was to make sure you had a big tent so that the Artists Club could be represented, because I think it's so important.
Oh, that was very good.
Yeah.
Well, we can bring in artists from all over, but if you don't represent your own artists in your own community, you know, it's really not worth doing. So
you know, we've had a lot of traffic in that tent over the years. It's really been a wonderful thing, because like the Caustic Center show, we don't turn anybody down. So we have a lot of young artists and new artists in that show who might not want to be in the juried show, but they always sign up for the Art on the Grand show.
Well, Jim, let's talk a little bit too about the Festival of the Arts, because you participate, or you have for years since I've been here, in the Festival of the Arts as a demonstrating artist.
Yes, and I've demonstrated at most of the festival 2 days. On a Thursday, the children would be bussed in from the local schools, and we get about 600 kids coming through, and myself and say 3 or 4 others would be demonstrating, and boy, the kids would surround while you're working and look at what you're doing and enjoy it. I would say, this is watercolor, and to these grade students, what are you working on? They said, well, yeah, I can do that. You know? And they do paint and watercolor, and it's to me, it was very nice to be able to do what I do and have them feel, it made me feel good.
Well, there's nothing like seeing an artist actually working, you know, to understand what it takes and, you know, to really get a feel for what's in that painting that you see on the wall. And then I know that you always had kids surrounding your table watching you paint. I thought that was amazing. And for those who don't know, the Festival of the Arts in the springtime buses in 4th graders. And they go through a process where they see live entertainment, usually middle school, high school bands or dances or whatever, then go into the gallery, get to see the art, and we always tell them to treat it like a museum, you know, and show respect and slow down and not run.
Yes.
And then they get to see the demonstrating artists and do a hands-on activity. So it's quite a great event for the city and for the Caustic Center. And, you know, I think it's a mutual thing too, a win-win thing, because you get all kinds of exposure and the kids get to see artwork. And again, what I like about your club is that you're serving children and encouraging them in the arts from the very beginning with the Art Smart program and Festival of the Arts all the way to the seniors. So you really have a wide expanse there. And that's perfect.
It's just what makes the city better is having art exposure for everybody.
Sure. Are there other things that have kind of come from this group? Like I know there was a plein air group meeting for a while.
The plein air was started years ago and by another, one of our club artists. And I sort of took over after she decided not to do it any long. And I ran it for 5 or 6 years until I thought it's time for me to get out of the sun. So I turned it over to another gentleman who is currently running it. And we would pick 8 or 9 or 10 locations during the summer every Wednesday to meet and to paint. And it was always a location. If not in Farmington Hills, it was one in Troy or Novi or Plymouth, areas of which can be easily, a couple of times that we went to Port Huron, which I didn't attend that one, but we did have times that people would travel, but most of the time it's local, and we enjoy getting out. Sometimes you get 2 or 3, 4 people, sometimes you get half a dozen or a dozen, but they enjoy the camaraderie and getting together.
Kristen?
And then last year, the Planar Group had a show at Heritage Park.
Heritage Park, right,
Thank you.
yes.
And we probably should look at doing that again this year because they've just finished the plein air for the year because the weather's gotten just a little too bad. But
Right.
And that was a nicely received show.
Sure.
They had a nice opening, and so gave a chance for a different group of people to exhibit their art.
Yeah, I think that's terrific. So we've got your art all over town.
Yeah, we tried to.
We really do, which is a good thing. And
Yeah.
it's, and it's such a variety of artwork too. Like we say, it's watercolor, it's even collage,
Collages.
you know, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And yeah, different styles. So there's
Sure,
something that everyone
sure,
can
we have
like
room
Yeah.
for some.
in the club. You know, even if you're not an artist, to just see it. And often these paintings are quite affordable too. And you know, great thing for people to purchase. And I always like to have artwork in my home where I know the artist.
Yeah.
You know, I know the story behind it and know that, you know, your backgrounds and so on.
Yeah.
And Jim, you were a graphic designer before you
Yes,
got
I
this.
started out many years ago. Actually, I came down to Detroit from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan to study art. And the old Meinzinger Art School, which is no longer in existence, and the Arts and Crafts, which is now the Center for Creative Studies. And I spent about 5 years in art training and got a job with General Motors, got into artwork as a graphic artist and became art director of the personnel staff. Then I retired and opened up my own little freelance studio for a few years doing logo design, letterhead design. I did a job for Farmington Hills
Yes,
logo design at one point, and I enjoy that. Now I've completely retired and I do watercolors and enjoy what I'm doing.
And what's your subject matter usually, Jim?
Well, the subject matter can be anything. I like landscapes, and lately I've been doing buildings, and I enjoy the trying to loosen up and not be as photographically tight.
That graphic
And
design
that's
background.
been hard because my background as a graphic artist was very realistic, so
Yeah.
I'm trying to loosen up. And,
Oh, that's great.
I do work with portrait painting. Every Friday I'm over at the BBAC. I run a life drawing class. It's a senior class for independent painters. And we have a model which I set up for 2 weeks at a time. So we have a model for 2 weeks, and that's currently going on.
And Jan, tell us about your artwork.
I'm mainly a still life. And probably because I'm an engineer, I'm very detailed. So it's
You
because
both need to loosen up. here.
yes.
Yeah.
But I mainly do still life. I'm trying to do some landscape work, but I'm not real good at it yet. I'm still working at it.
Do you work in watercolor mostly?
Yes, I'm also a watercolor.
Okay. Now, I find watercolor to be more difficult personally than oils. So
Yeah.
I admire people that.
Yeah, I've been told it's the
Excel
most
in that.
difficult medium, and somebody said, well, when you retired, why did you take on the most difficult? I said, because I liked it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's also very different. You
Yeah.
can really love that form of. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
You know,
great.
recently we're finding out that you know the masters back in the 1800s, the oil painters, all worked in watercolor, and of course they did their sketches in watercolor before they went to the studio and did the final painting.
Yeah, in
So
oil.
watercolors were always considered drawings. They never got the big time. So all the shows were oil painters, and still to this day, watercolor still takes a back seat from oil paintings at most big shows. Paintings that can reach into large sums of money are never available to a watercolor because they feel, well, they'll fade in time, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Turner's watercolors are still very good in museums
Yes.
today. So
That's true.
Yes.
that's a myth.
Yes.
But Michigan Watercolor Society, which I belong to, is a good vehicle, and a lot of our club members. I think the last show we had 12 club members in the Michigan Watercolor exhibit,
Which is
and that's
also
a juried show.
a juried
also.
show.
A juried show. That's great. That's just wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad that you came to visit us today and to tell us all
Well,
about your
thank you.
club.
Thank
And
you.
now, if someone wants to join, they would come to the meeting on Wednesdays, you said?
Yeah, second Wednesday of every month,
Second Wednesday, what time, Jan?
6:45.
6:45 at the 12 Mile Library.
That's correct.
And just join the group and see if you like it and become a member. And
We'll welcome you with open arms.
That's
that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay? And thanks to all of you for joining us on Cultural Connection.